So hello everyone, this is Dr. Prashanth. I graduated last year from Madras Medical College and that was in June 2022. So I prepared for the civil services exam around 8 to 8.5 months later, and the years, it's taken at least 1 year for the exams to get over, and this year I've secured the AIR or All India rank 78 in the civil services examination 2023. So this was my basic background about the journey through which I've been into the civil services. And as far as my family background is concerned, again, my father passed away at a very young age, and my mom was the only breadwinner basically. And I have done my MBAs, and post that I have got this opportunity to think whether I should pursue the post graduation or whether I should get through to venture a different field. And that is when I felt that the civil services had a better scope. So the diversity that it offers and around 80 to 90 cases a day is what I can probably look up as a doctor. But around 1 million plus can be impacted through the bureaucracy. So that's where I feel I'll be able to be, perform a little better, stretching the scope of my work schedule. So this was something short about my civil services journey. So let's get on to look up my strategy on the civil services. And maybe I think I'll take a little more on the prelims than the mains and the interview. So my focus shall be more on the prelims, especially the next 60 days, if I were to put it up. And out of these, 50 productive days is what we have. So maybe these 50 days, you can probably categorize it into 20 and 30 again. And these 20 days can be for revision of the leftover content, and probably the next 30 days is all about giving as many full marks as possible. So I think why prelims, is more important is all the more because people have this mindset that probably mains is more important. But when you actually get to see prelims is the decider, because without the prelims, you probably don't get to go to the mains or the interview. So that, makes it even more complicated. And when we actually get to see, that is this case that, some people are really good at the prelims and then, they falter at the mains. While it could be vice versa as well. There are quite a few takers who've done at least 5 to 6 attempts over the prelims, trying to qualify the prelims. And, at the 6th attempt or so, they've been able to crack the prelims, mains, and the interview altogether. So I think, the focus needs to be on prelims. And for me personally, prelims was a nightmare. So I really feel that as veterans, as years pass by, the expertise to clear prelims gets better. While with respect to the mains, it's always a little, on the tougher and the dicey side. So as far as the prelims is concerned, my sources again would stick to using Lakshmikant for polity and, the same old economics from Ramesh Singh, and maybe history should be from the NCRTs, nothing new apart from the NCRTs and the spectrum part of it for modern. And the focus on current affairs can be any PT 365, edition. So I think covering this from the yearly annual editions is more than enough. And it doesn't require you to do the monthly editions per se, more because that is this point where we easily forget stuff. And it's all about repeated revision. So I think EVS, I probably use the Shankar notes, and, for the geography part, it was NCRTs again, more often. So I think once these 5 subjects are done, I think you're good to go for at least 80%, and probably the current affairs is 20. So people ask this question basically between static and dynamic affairs. And I think, it's pivotal that you concentrate more on the static affairs rather than dynamic affairs, because the static component is what, people should get right. And once, someone gets it right, and if you get it wrong, then that's why, you start faltering. And what really is the purpose of mocks? It's more because you get to understand the sweet spot as to where to stop and where to start attempting questions. So it's about, this position where probably around 85 is what I used to attempt. But then in the actual paper, I attempted 95. And the reason being, I think there is this role of intuition, in the prelims where you'll not be able to clear-cut give an answer. And maybe that is also the case that it could be a very tough paper, because all these years we've been seeing the prelims get tougher by the day. So I think, it's a nuanced stand between using your intuition and balancing it between, getting across the prelims. Because at the end of the day, there's also this role of fortune and luck associated with it. So I think this intuition will tell you where to stop and where to start. And especially doing it in 3 rounds for the prelims is what, I would focus either. So these 3 rounds have to be, say, the first 30 questions in the first round. And probably I would start with polity. So that is my sweet spot. And then go on for history. And then probably go in for economics. So once these three are done, probably around, 40 to 50 questions is where you will have a gross idea about. So what to do for the rest of the 50 to 60 questions? So probably you should, use your intuition here, try to eliminate options, and if elimination doesn't work, then probably it's, some tricks and techniques do work, and probably that is, where there is this option of only 2 options correct, working out to be the right answer. So more often that can be correct, though that is not always a rule of thumb. And there is this notion that science and tech always has all of the above as the right answer, or it could be, none of the above is very rarely right. So these are certain techniques which you can probably use. So I think this covers holistically about the prelims, and, being that as the nightmare, especially geography, I would put my focus more on prelims, especially for polity and history and economics. So I think this is what I would advise, for the fellow aspirants as well. And I think it needs to be taken with a pinch of salt again, because what works for one might not work for the other. So this about, let me also address in short, what I would do for the mains. And I think with respect to the mains, it's about presenting your answers point-wise with a value-added content, be it facts, statistics, diagrams, or it could be current affairs related connections, and, trying to add the value addition reports, the committees. So this is all that matters with respect to the mains papers. And I've probably, believed in focusing more on the essay and ethics part, because it is the most scoring part of this exam. And I think, that is what you really need to do, especially with respect to the mains. And as far as the interview is concerned, I think it's about, focusing on your DAF and maintaining confidence or the aura across the conversation. So it's about building a conversation, and that's what they probably check. So there's this fine difference between, being overconfident or being underconfident. And I think it totally doesn't require you to display that, provided, you know the right person you're addressing it to. So I think interview is 50% fixed by your CV, the DAF, and that needs to be holistic. And the rest 50% can probably be, nuanced, where you do your talking, and that's why, you especially maintain the confidence in the aura. So I think that is a pretty prominent, especially for the interview. So if you'd ask me as to what differently I'd done in my mains, I think it's probably nothing very different from, the other toppers talk. And in fact, we hear quite a few toppers, telling us more about the prelims and the mains part. But the emphasis on mains is actually a relatively less underplayed situation, I would say, because, there is this fear factor more for the interview. But you really get to understand that the mains is, one arena where things are in your control, and probably, marks are rewarded more often based on what you've written. Like, seldom it is the case that probably, marks go haywire. So I think at the end of the day, it's a matter of 1 year. And throughout this preparation, I think there are 3 C's that I always believe upon. And one would be confidence, conviction, and the courage with which, you take forward things. And I think at the end of the day, it's about, understanding that probably if it's not this attempt, then probably a second attempt or a third attempt, and so on. So I think, that's exactly what matters, and nothing much more beyond that. So, being focused about it is even more pivotal. So consistency, courage, and the conviction. These are the 3 formulas that I would tell fellow aspirants to go with as well. And, having this conviction that you will be able to do it, that is very important in the process. And probably you should have a peer group of friends and family who can, help you out with it, and trust the process per se, because this is an exam which 13 lakh aspirants take, and probably, you land up to be the top 100 or so, or maybe the top 1,000. And every one of us, I think, is kind of coveted and blessed in that we've been part of the journey and probably, undergo the transformation. So I think that's what matters at the end of the day. And if there are more questions to take, then thank you for the opportunity.